Hey guys and girls, welcome back to the HighDef show. Today I thought I would do something a little bit different, and it's going to be based around a mod that I produced around a year ago called Drift TT. Now this is a custom made level that I made, and it's basically a big skid pan where I had time trial layouts for sort of drift inspired runs. So lots of sweeping corners, and I think it's about 4 or 5 different configurations, and you can reverse them. And also packaged into the mod are a bunch of BeamNG assets which allow you to make your own layouts and configurations for time trials. You could even make scenarios if you wanted to, but the point is that it allows you to make your own level without going through the somewhat complicated measures that you need to use to make a fresh level. So you're basically given a blank canvas to make some time trials on. So let's load that up now, if we go to the right thing. And as you can see here, the drift pan is just a big square of tarmac with a border of a bit of grass and some hills and some trees. Here it is. Only a small size texture ground model, but it's plenty of space to do sort of drifting stuff or even off-road stuff. So we could literally build anything here. We could make like a big off-road monster truck course or anything. We can change the floor to be dirt or mud or anything we'd like. So this basically is the free roam, just open-end version. But if we load into a time trial mode under the same level, double click. Yes, 4 configs that I have included, and I've just updated the mod with this config, which is basically a toolkit for starting your own layout. So we'll just load one of these for now. Doesn't actually matter what car. And it will load the same level again, but it will have the prefab which tells it to load all these objects in to produce this drift track, which is actually based on a real life drift track. I quite like this one. So today I wanted to show you a tutorial on how to basically produce something like this. I won't provide your imagination obviously, but I will provide you with the information needed to successfully make a time trial mode around your own configuration of the level. So firstly, what you're going to want to do is unpack the Drift TT mod once you've obviously installed it from the website. So, oh my goodness, too many mods. Oh yes, of course you can search, just to make it a bit quicker. There we are. So if we click that mod, then we can click unpack. I've already unpacked it, but this will then unpack into your unpacked mods folder. So let's take a look at the folders now, and I'll explain to you briefly what you need to know. So we can exit the game. So you're going to want to go to your BeamNG.drive documents folder. I've favorited all of my most used BeamNG.drive folders. Anyway, so we want to go to mods, and then in unpacked you should now find the Drift TT folder, and under that you'll find a levels folder, the level folder itself, drift pan, and then under quick race, which is where all the time trial files are saved, you should see the configurations that come with the mod, and also this base config. So what you want to do is copy this. I held down shift then to select all 3. Copy and paste, Control C, Control V, and it's now made a copy. So what I want to do is keep it in with this, so we'll call it config 5. And I'll shift control left to copy, and that means I can just paste these into these files. So now we have a config 5, but config 5 is still obviously exactly the same as base, and it still has the base image. So first things first, I'm going to load paint, and I'm going to load this, and I'm going to change this. So I'll select all, press delete, and I'll just type in config 5. Obviously you can put whatever you like. You can take a screenshot of the level and use that, but just for now to keep things tidier rather than two images that say copy me. We'll just have that. Okay, save that and close it. So now we've done our image. So next we open the JSON file, excuse me. So this is the information about the scenario. This is where you change the name, where you set up how many waypoints it has to go through to complete the scenario, or the time trial I should say. And you can choose whether it's a closed loop circuit or an end-to-end, whether you can have it in reverse config, and whether you can have rolling starts. So I'll explain a little bit more about that when we get into the level. But for now we want to change this entry to config 5 and change this, I don't know, just config 5. Doesn't matter for now. And you could change this from HighDef to your name, but I would keep BeamNG in there if you're going to use the assets. Even the level itself, the base level, uses some BeamNG assets, so I feel it's good etiquette to leave that in there. Oh yes, if you're not using Notepad++, then I seriously recommend it. There will be a link in the description below. Okay, so we'll save that. And we can see in our config5.prefab folder file, this is where it tells the game to place everything when you load this scenario. Now these are our spawn points. This is basically just telling it where to place it when you load it. You can do this in game, or you can do this through this file here. Basically, this is the name of the spawn point. There's 1, 2, 3, and 4 spawn points. Now these denote where you are starting a time trial from a standing start in normal direction. This is from a standing start in the reverse direction, so you'd place this at the other end facing the opposite direction as if to do a reverse version of that track. Then you've got rolling reverse, where you would typically put that, say, 100 yards back from the end, so you'll be coming backwards, but when you meet the end to start, if that makes any sense, you'll be at speed. And base rolling, which would be from the start, you'd place it further back so that when you go over the start line you're at speed. Sorry if that wasn't a very good explanation, but yeah. The point is, they are prefixed with this word here. This one's base because the configuration is called base. You will need to change this to the name of the scenario you are making. So we're making config 5. If you don't do this, it won't recognise these as the correct spawn points, and you'll spawn underneath the level and fall forever. So you must do this. So we'll just change where it says base to config 5. Okay, one more. Okay, no space, has to be named exactly the same. So that's it, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, that's done, so we save that. Okay, so now we're ready to go into the game and start placing stuff where we need it to be. Right, so we'll load the time trials, select the drift pan level, and here you see we have drift.tt config 5 that we've just made. So double click that, select any car, doesn't really matter now. As you can see here, we can select reverse start, rolling start, and how many laps. So we'd have to place our spawn points in the right places to be relevant to a rolling start or to a reverse start. So I'll show you that when we come to it. So here we are. This is the base config still as a layout. So if we start here, we can already finish the scenario. The waypoints are just sat here in a line. So they're ready to go, basically. That's now the end of the time trial. So what we are going to want to do is place them around our made level so that it resembles an actual time trial. So from here, as I said, you could change this floor to anything you wanted to. It doesn't have to be asphalt, it could be mud or ice or anything you like. So for good practice, it's always best to pause the game before going to the editor. Make sure that you're not in full screen mode because the editor does not load up in full screen mode. You could use windowed or full screen windowed. I'm in windowed at the moment, so we press F11 and that will load up the editor. So as you can see here, we've got our waypoints just laid out here, and we have 4 spawn points. This is our standing start, rolling start, reverse standing and reverse rolling starts. Okay, so right now we are ready to move things around and start setting up our level. But first we need to unpack the prefab. So anything that's loaded further from the base level itself, so the base level being just this pan with a few buildings and the trees, everything else for a scenario or for a time trial is going to be loaded from a prefab. Now on the scene tree at the side here, you'll see scene and library. You'll see in scene we have everything that's currently in the level, and if you click it, it will select it on the screen depending on what it is. And you see here we have library. Now this is everything that can be put into your level that's in the asset storage. So what we need to do is, you'll find it like this to start with: scenario objects group. This will be the folder you need to open if you want to access the scenario or time trial details. So we open that up, we can see here we've got a little box icon and config 5, which is our current level that we're working on. So if we right click on here and click unpack the prefab, so now it's made everything inside the prefab editable. And once you've clicked the little arrow to open it out, you can see everything inside here. So we have the waypoints and the spawn points. Now, not sure if this is still a bug, but I do it always. This line here, prefab file name, click the little no entry sign or delete to get rid of that, because at least when I started making scenarios there was a bug which meant that if you didn't delete this, the chances are the things that you've placed in your level will be saved in completely wrong positions, and it's very annoying. So it doesn't harm to just do it every time anyway. I might test it at some point just to see if it still is a bug. But yeah, just click the little red thing there, and then from then on it's fine until you open up the prefab again. Every time you unpack a prefab, you should delete that line. Okay, just remember that thing. So what we want to do is select something. So the numbers on the top of the keyboard below the F keys, you can use 1, 2 and 3 and 4 to select what kind of tool you're using. So 1 is just select, it doesn't actually allow you to do anything. 2 is move, so we're just moving this spawn point here. So you can move it on the flat axes, on the upper axes, left and right. And if you press 3, you can then select the rotate, or 4 to scale, which you don't want to scale a spawn point. That basically means to make it bigger or smaller. You can also access these 4 tools at the top left here. Okay, so I'm going to put in a road using the road editor. The default selection is to create a new road wherever you click, so be wary of that. So we're going to put these nodes fairly close together, but not too close together. And we're going to make a basic track. Okay, so you can't select these buttons with the number keys at the top, sadly, but you want to select move point in order to move some of the nodes. Click it first and then drag it. I guess it's a little bit finicky sometimes. So click and drag, try and get them lined up. Okay, so our road's in. We give it a texture by coming over to this side panel here. Go to Decal Road, Material, click the globe. Okay, so if we find road and path, we should find some textures for road. Any of these will do. Let's go for the A Asphalt 01. Select that, and now our decal road should have a texture. So now we'll go back to our mission editor, or object editor I should say, and we can move in our waypoints. Do 9 and finish. Now the finish waypoint and waypoint 1 act as a start finish line, so put these, I find the best place is just put the finish line just before the start line. It could be right over the top. As long as they're within inside each other, that will now mark as a start finish line. That will count as waypoint 1 to start and waypoint finish to end. Okay, if you have a gap, then you'll get sort of strange lap times where there's a gap in the track that doesn't actually record. So now we'll put in our spawn point. So standing spawn we want right there on the start line. It's spinning round so it's facing the right direction. Now standing reverse we want in exactly the same spot, only facing the opposite direction. Like so. And then rolling, we'll do rolling normal direction first. Always throws me off because it has them rolling reverse before rolling forwards, if you know what I mean. So for a reverse start we want it speeding out of the last corner as if he's already on a lap. So we'll face him coming down here, so you can power out this corner and go across the start line at speed. And we do the same for the reverse, only in the other direction. Go back a bit because the start line's further to this side. And turn him round like that, put him in the middle. Okay, so now we have, basically it will be a functioning circuit. Not very detailed, but it should work. So, now I'm at a stage where I want to try it out. So I want to go back to the mission editor or object editor, and I need to, as you can see here, we have this tree with our prefab, which is basically our scenario, but our decal road that we put in isn't inside the same tree. We need to place that inside with the waypoints and the spawn points, and then go to the box prefab again, right click, double check that you've deleted the file name as I explained earlier, and then click prefab. Now wherever this says it's going to save, it's not. It's going to save it in the documents folder under a driftpan folder. I'll show you. You can specify it to be called config5, but it won't save it in this mod folder. So yeah, say it will replace it, but it's not going to. I'll show you where it will save. In BeamNG.drive, my documents folder, you'll find a folder with the mod's name, and this mod's named DriftTT, so it'll be in there under levels, driftpan, quick race, and there it is saved. So if we cut that, go back to the mods folder, unpack, DriftTT, levels, driftpan, quick race, and then we'll place it in there where it said it was going to place it. I guess this is to stop you accidentally overwriting your work. Okay, now we can click X on BeamNG, hard close that, load it up again. Okay, so let's load up our time trial again and play. Okay, so we should just be able to start. And here we have our track. And there it is. Simple as that. Well, it's not entirely simple, I know, but that's now is ready for us to just go nuts with imagination, and you can do what you like. So let's have a little look at the sort of things you could expect to be doing. So let's open our scenario objects group and unpack our prefab again, deleting the prefab name, prefab file name, that's it. Now, if we open the library tab here and go to Art, Shapes. Now this is where you can find all the good stuff that you'd want to put into your level. So, for instance, we can go Buildings. Now, anytime this pops up, just click OK. And we have a block. I'm sure we could use that for some crawling trials or something. Let's place that where we want it. And let's put a bunch more in. Let's put a house, just because. There we go. And a gas station with no textures on it. Whatever. I guess you'll find some of the stuff in the assets that come with this mod. They will have texture issues, I guess, by now. But you don't have to use them all. Some of them you can reassign the textures, I'm sure. That's not my forte, I'm afraid. I'm sure I could work it out again, but it's been a while since I've done much BeamNG modding stuff. So we wanted to save those. We now have our prefab here that has our road in that we've included in the last pack. So now we have these 4 static objects, which are the buildings and that block. So if we wanted to put those in, we'd do the same as we did before. Drag them into the group where our prefab is. And right click and pack. And close BeamNG. If you're going to be updating your prefabs often, it's best to have 2 windows open. I have one with the mods folder, where the mod actually is, and I have one with the BeamNG.drive documents folder, where it's saving our prefab to. So every time it saves, we can just go from one to the other, like this. And I just leave those open until I finished making my configs. So now if we load our config 5, we shall find some buildings there. They will load every time. Okay, so hopefully this has given you an idea of how to get started with making your own little levels using this mod. It's not a huge amount of space, but it's definitely something for people to get started with and get used to using the editor and the tools. I highly recommend you have at least a go, and it'd be great to see all your creations and crazy levels that you can make in this space. I know I'll be doing some soon. We'll probably make some off-roady crawling levels as well as drifty stuff. So yeah, keep your eyes peeled for those videos. But yeah, hopefully you'll have good luck with this, and I'll hopefully see you in the next video. See you later, guys and girls.